Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. This is your host, Craftsdwarf, here with my co-host, Mathwiz. It's finally here. You've all been waiting for it. The long-anticipated discussion of something I like a lot. Mathwiz, what do you think about Danganronpa?
Hey, it's... You know, it starts off a little slow, but No, I'm kidding. I've barely played any of
it. Alright, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Anyway, comments. I only had one to respond to. Did you have any to respond to?
There was... I thought that there was, like, 2 or 3 that seemed interesting. Obviously, there's the one observation by, Yohane-sama's Little Dragon. Very interesting username. But basically that, like, head and nipple are... You know,
yes,
they sound similar.
I didn't notice that. Maybe it was in the translation notes, and I just completely missed it. But no,
it's one of those things that, like, if we were watching the anime, it would be obvious because you'd hear it, and it's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, but we were just reading it, so we're kind of beholden to whatever little tidbits that the translators decide to give us. Or, so yeah.
And sometimes I don't want to read translators' notes because there's already so much text on the page.
That's true. Especially because that was like midway through the reading, but still. And that was actually the only comment I had to respond to. So.
Oh, okay.
You stole it from me.
For once, I get to steal a comment from you. Haha. There was also like a little back and forth. I mean, there was a comment and a reply. I guess that's not much of a back and forth, but Max Musterman talked about, the gender swap stuff, and there were certain things about it that, like, about this comment that I disagreed with. But basically...
Yeah, and the reply brought up something that he didn't account for in his readings, so, and I don't know, I wasn't sure about it myself, but what were we going to say? Go ahead.
Well, because it kind of brought up points about, like talking about like how Kyubey just being male and just like doing the change would have been more beneficial for them when like from how I'd understood it, I don't know, I think it was more just like I felt like, especially like the whole, like, if Kyubey was male, then being the head of the Yagyu household would be easier, and it's like, well, wasn't there already a previous arc that served to say that, like, you don't have to be male to be, like, a samurai, to be, like, that, like, yeah, it had already, Gintama had already kind of done some of its, like, gender, talking about gender roles, and how, there were also some issues that I had mentioned in that podcast about the gender swap arc, like how, it makes the relationship, their potential relationship with Otai and Kyubey easier, which I was like, that doesn't make sense, because... Kyubey's still Kyubey, so, it was something I didn't particularly care for, because it's like, so Otai doesn't care, or, like, Otai's not interested when Kyubey is a woman, but then when Kyubey was a man, suddenly she's, like, all flustered, and, which I didn't really understand, or, not that I didn't understand it, but, like, I didn't really vibe with me,
And someone else had another comment sort of about how, like, later on, they do kind of still do jokes regarding Kyubey and, potential surgery, which I forget who said that comment, but, we haven't gotten there yet. But
yeah, because wasn't, we're already far enough removed from the reading now that I'm like, was it? But I believe the gender swap arc happened, like, before the stuff with Yoshiwara and the love potion, and of course, that was, again, like, the thing with Kyubey is that it comes up again.
It did. Yeah.
So, yeah, like... I agree with the general idea of, like, oh, I kind of disliked the conclusion to the arc, but then it was just kind of like some of the points that were used here. I was like,
yeah. Well, and I've been thinking about this with Gintama in general, because it's like, it's just so fucking long, where it's like even watching it, it's like over 350 episodes. And like reading it isn't a slouch either. So I'm just thinking, like, say if you wanted to talk about Kyubey and even like a video or something like that, like, pick out the individual, like, Kyubey arcs and episodes that are most important and, like, marathon them and all at once, and then you kind of get, like, all the notable beats, I guess. Like, it was just a thought I just had of, like, because rereading Gintama is like, oh, and watching it is also like, oh, so, especially like in our case, because we don't love it, where like with One Piece, it's really fucking long, but I also like it a lot, and have already reread it like a bunch of times over, the last like 15 years or so. Or watched parts of it. So that's, if I love Gintama, I feel it. That was just the thought I had. But yeah, because, it is part of an arc. And, one of the other thing Maximus was talking about, like, was about the progressiveness of it. And, like, I don't live in Japan. So, like, we've kind of talked about there are, differences in, cultures that would need to be accounted for, I think, in cultural readings, like especially with the Okama, which we've talked about before, that I don't know a lot about how they like actual Okama in Japan. So, yeah, it's I don't know, just a thought I had. I didn't have any more comments though, so.
I think like as far as like the status quo, maybe not like, I don't know but like as far as like the status quo of the series, like if we're just, to like narrow it down that specifically, because who was it? It was also, what was the name of the commenter? It was Colin Nelson had mentioned how like, comparing it to Hasegawa and how like there were, or, sometimes there will be like character moments and it's like, oh, is this kind of like the conclusion to this thread? Or, are we getting some sort of like, like going in a different direction here, but then it kind of just, because, like the jokes kind of keep coming up. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of why I suggested like seeing it all at once in order would be, it would give a more complete reading, I guess, compared to reading the whole series, just because like with a series so large and with so many characters, it's like that's a lot of things to keep straight, and that's would be easier for someone who really enjoys it and is probably going to go through it multiple times. But I'm not saying we're not going to go through it multiple, like, I don't know, maybe I'll watch it eventually one day. It's just not exactly a high priority. So, anyway, ready to start discussion?
Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Revisitation arc, where we go through the anime of all the stuff we've talked about on the podcast and re-examine our thoughts.
We just re-listen to the Nen Show and talking about the Nen Show, or talk, like, what? So anyway, start off, Shige, there's an assassination attempt, starting off I knew it as a Shogun assassination arc. I don't know if you'd heard that, word thrown, or phrase thrown around for the arc, but,
well, I had, because,
okay.
That was what the episode was labeled.
Oh, no, I had it just as I had it as SA for a while, and maybe it was Shogun Assassination at one point, but I did change it to SA on if you're talking about our document.
Well, then maybe I'm wrong, and I heard it somewhere else, and I just like forgot where I heard it from. Maybe I'm deceiving myself. Maybe I assassinated myself. Maybe I'm the Shogun.
Oh no. What was I thought was kind of weird in a interesting way about the start of this arc is because like you have Benizakura, which started off in a serious way. And usually have, like, arcs that start off in a comedic way and then become serious. Where this one, it's like, okay, it starts off with Shige getting, the assassination attempt. Like, Hattori has some more, grounded scenes where he's with Gintoki. Like, he's not, building up to the serious stuff he's got going on. And then it goes straight into, like, the weird comedy bit with the doubles. And I was like, because, having gone through the arc, it's, like, probably some of the most serious the series has been. But like so it was interesting to see it start off and with both serious stuff and comedic stuff like happening in the same chapter.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that happening in the start of the arcs a lot. So I guess because it felt differently, even though it did still have like everyone's dressed as dicks for some reason. But like it was so yeah. This is how we start off like the final stretch of Gintama. That has all the best stuff that fans agree is really good. So, but it was also different. So I don't know. It just came to mind.
I did also like how this arc it did the thing again where it starts off with a like not even just as far as like the comedic or dramatic stuff, but it starts off with like the thing about the tea and how he just wants to enjoy the tea that his sister poured as an older brother, and then it ends with him drinking the tea.
See, I don't know. This was like I stopped reading right before the actual last chapter of the arc because the volume ended, and I was like, well, this is a good stopping point. Even though I know the arc's not over, I'll just, come back and finish the end of the arc and start the next one. So for like a couple days, I was under the blissful impression that the Shogun assassination arc ended without the Shogun being assassinated. And then I came back and read the last chapter. I'm like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's also kind of interesting because, there's the part where he's assassinated the first time, but then it's like, oh no, it wasn't actually him. And so it's like, okay, so he's not gonna, and then he does. So there's two assassinations. So it does like the fake out and like the fake death, and then it doesn't do the fake thing, and it's sad.
Yeah, and even the fake death was good because I a lot of times when a fake death will happen, I'll be like, they'll be fine. But then with this case, it's like Shige, like one, it's called the Shogun assassination arc, so like if he was ever gonna die, it would be during this arc, and two, he's not like that important. Right? Like, obviously, if it was Gintoki, I'd be like, yeah, he'll be okay. Because he's too important to not die. But Shige is, like, just at that level, like, he's recurring, and all that, like, there's actually good payoff towards his arc, or for his arc in this one. But also, like, him dying is also, like, would work. And so I was like, did he really fucking die? Like, it was a good, start to because it did happen fairly early into the arc. So,
yeah, and, like, they did it well enough that, by the time he does actually die, I'm like, okay, so they're probably not going to kill him off, I mean, it's a shonen series, characters surviving and finding a way to make things better, and then no, he did die, and it's like,
Yeah, like, it definitely is a bit of a, change in tone for the series, and, like, the next arc was also serious, and I'm aware, as far as I know, like, it doesn't really change from that, like, this is the big serious stuff for Gintama. And it's, I'm looking forward to more. I will already say that, like, Shogun Assassination is probably my favorite arc so far. Pharaoh and Shinsengumi is up there, but I do like Shogun Assassination more so far. But I liked both, so... and I know you actually didn't struggle through this reading, so I assume you at least have, like, a higher level of enjoyment on some level.
I mean, like...
Well, I saw your message to me, but...
Well, yeah, because, like, this arc, for the most part, isn't trying to be funny. So it's not like, oh, the comedy's just bouncing off me. Like, it's... Which is not to say... I mean, we've gone over this before, that, like, if you enjoy... I mean, there are things where, like, the comedy setup paid off in ways over the... Between, like, the two different arcs. Like, certain... gags that happen earlier in the series that come back later, but they get the serious moments or whatever. But yeah, so it's not like, it's I guess it, it's still overall like a comedy series, but it does get more actiony and more dramatic here. And I definitely don't want, I mean, part of me kind of does want to be the person to say, like, wow, Gintama, it's the whole, like, it doesn't get good until, like, a certain point, or it gets good later, but, like, actually, because I still have spite for, like, the 500 chapters to get to this point. But also, I could understand why, at least in, like, the direction it seems to be heading, I could understand why someone who is already invested in Gintama would consider this, like, the some of the best material in all of Shonen, because, like, it's the series is paying off so much stuff all at once. Arguably, yes. It holds back a lot of its most I don't want to go that far, because, like, it does some things earlier, but like the whole thing with Takasugi, it was like being held back up to this point when it would finally happen.
Like, he was this character with a huge amount of presence, but when you actually, like, step back and look, like, what has he done up to this point? Like, there was one arc early on, or one Benizakura, and then the robot arc is the one I was referring to that was a little bit earlier, and then, like, after that, he got, like, one focal arc and a couple, like, bit parts, and even being used as a joke, like, with other characters dressing up as him, like, 4 times, if you count the movie. And
it's the same with Kagura's brother too. Like, he shows up and looks intimidating, but he hadn't had many appearances really up to this point.
Right, and, like, I guess that's the thing, is, like, even if especially in your case, didn't enjoy the earlier parts as much as these arcs, like they're still necessary.
Yeah,
right? Like
absolutely.
even the stuff that quote unquote doesn't matter. It's like even from the start, I liked how you pointed out the sense of community, and that's why the Four Davis arc was really good because it used that community and showed why it was a big deal and important to all the characters involved. And that was also my favorite arc up until Shogun Assassination.
And like
for good reason.
There's even like there's the part where they go to what the heck is it called, the cabaret club, and how it. So as much as I like didn't like the stuff with the Shogun, like I understood what it was doing, but I didn't like the comedy.
I even kind of mentioned one or two readings ago about like the carnivalization, where it's like putting the Shogun on the same level as the other characters, and that's literally the point
here, because this replacement Shogun Nobunobu, he is not like them. He can't get down to their level because he's got this sense of superiority, and so it puts more emphasis on how like Shige is like the ideal leader. He's the one who doesn't want to be the leader at all. And
right. So, but because of that, he won't domineer over others. But he'll instead unify them. Because like we saw his leadership capability in the Court of Nation, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it's like he's just a solid arc, and it's cool and good.
And then as well in the farewell Shinsengumi thing, they even, I'm gonna say it's intentional that like the stuff with Katsura in the prison is like. It plays on the prison break chapters up to this point.
I definitely have some stuff to get to on there because there was one thought I had because you did a tweet after we watched the movie, and it regards Katsura and Kondo and like the payoff to those two and their dynamic that they've had so far. It's but that we're jumping ahead a little bit. I'm gonna grab this and pull us back to the Shogun Assassination. But yeah, so it starts off like it kind of gets right into it. So because you get the bodyguard detail, they break down all the plans. There's like Gintoki as the Shogun double, being an asshole as Gintoki B. Like at this point he's odd job, so he'll just do whatever's asked of him, and here he is helping his friends, but also being a dick because it's Gintoki. But then like Hattori cuts off as we come to find out later, the imposter, Shige's head, and then shit gets real and doesn't stop being real.
There's also a lot of, like, over the course of this arc, there's a lot of, well, I guess it's between the two arcs as well. There's just a lot of, like, who's really the one pulling the strings. It kind of, the series kind of plays around with that, because, like, initially it's Nobunobu, and he's like, I have all these tools at my disposal, but then he gets wrecked. And Takasugi's like, nah, he was just one of my limbs, one of my tools. But then, of course, they get betrayed later, and it's like, no, it's not actually you. It's actually... And it's not Nobunobu either, because he's also our puppet. And there's like another group.
And then we find out more about that other group in the next arc, and it's pain. I'm in pain.
And I definitely do think you did mention the Courtesan of a Nation arc. And where, like, at the time, I had felt, like, kind of out of it reading that, because it was introducing a lot to be paid off here. But it was, like, a lot of new stuff, and it just seemed like everything was happening at once. And, like, I understand why that stuff had to be introduced now, because, like, it was set up to this, because if they don't introduce those characters there, then it's like, who's the Tendo Shu? Who are these people? So, like, I don't know, maybe I'll enjoy Courtesan of a Nation more going back on it, or... I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll still feel that was kind of structured a little. I don't know. We'll see.
Also, another part that kind of got... another part that got to me is when Hime was running from the assassins, and like she goes to the door, and like a hand falls out of the door. I'm like, Sorachi, you bitch. Like, Shige, I could accept him as a sacrifice, but Hime... she's too precious and cute to die. And then, of course, no, she didn't die. Okita saved her. I'm like, thank God for Okita. So, that was a little reaction I had. Oh, yeah, I didn't. For some reason, I don't think I thought about this while reading it, but Okita fighting Kamui is kind of perfect because Okita kind of has the rivalry with Kagura. So,
yeah.
And he's fighting her brother. So, I didn't think about that while I was reading.
Yeah, I guess that's also kind of a like a base level intrigue that this arc has. It's a lot of like, ooh, cool fight matchups. Like we get to see, the guy who wants to destroy everything versus the guy who likes destroying things. Ooh. Except with the one guy, Okita has a thing to protect, and it's like, he's contrast.
Themes. Oh yeah, that's right. We get to introduce to like other ninja groups, and but I mean, I guess compared to like the Shogun, it's not like I didn't really feel like it was like necessarily paying off stuff with Sachan or Hattori, but it was nice to see them like get more stuff in focus, I guess. But like compared to that, like it didn't build to that in this in the same way. But then again, they're also like major characters, so and there's like 2 arcs to go, so who knows. But when we also get the whole like flashback with Shiga as a ninja and how he kind of like got really close to the Oniwa. I forgot some of the rest of the ninjas. See, there's like so much going on. It's hard to like pick one thing to focus on because it's just one of those parts where like there's like a jump in between different characters and stuff, and it's how do I talk about it all? What do I want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? I don't know. Cause like you mentioned, like who's pulling the strings? But even the protagonists have their own like tricks up their sleeve, like I just mentioned with the ninjas and the Shinsengumi kind of popping in, and there's a lot of back and forth, but it's cool.
Oh, that's right. There's also the little moment where it's like it does the joke where like the Shogun shows up and the people are like it's the Shogun. But it's like before it had been like done for like comedic effect. But here it's like dramatic reveal. He's not dead. He's still alive. It's the Shogun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we also get Takasugi moving, and Gintoki, of course, he's got to try and stop Takasugi because they no. So I'm thinking about it a little bit later, and it hurts.
But yeah, it's also, says a lot. Well, I don't know. It says a lot about them. Like it's reinforcing the whole nature of the way that Takasugi wants to destroy things, because like doesn't matter if at the time they were under the impression that it was the real Shogun that they had killed, but that wasn't going to stop him anyway. Because what are they called? I forget what their group is called, but when they're approaching the castle, the people are like, did they see through our plan that it's not actually the Shogun? But it's like, no, it doesn't really matter, because Takasugi just wants to destroy.
Yeah,
and
like,
so
he'll use
does
whatever excuse he can get.
Kagura's brother.
Yeah, right, and yeah, and like you even have like a whole bunch of Yato with them, so and there's also a lot of part of why I guess it was easier to read is because there was more action and less talking. It was just like, oh cool, pages that don't take 5 minutes to get through. Because I don't have a lot to say about like the fighting itself, like because it's they're fighting all the Yato and cool. It's got these big action sequences. Because I guess what I really want to get to is Gintoki and Takasugi because they finally face off for the first time in the series, I think.
There was definitely a point, I think, in this arc in particular, where it was like, how does the series go on for another like 200 chapters from here? Is this not the end?
Yeah, it's already really big, yeah, but it's right, like now after the arc, Takasugi's like seems to be hospitalized, and it's I'm looking forward to more, but oh yeah, there's a good line as I'm like going through when they at one point they split up the Shinsengumi and the Odd Jobs, and there's a line about how like even if we're looking in different directions, we all have the same place to go back to, since like the Odd Jobs is kind of always like in these 2 arcs because they're like there. But they're not characters with like this duty, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Shinsengumi, they're supposed to protect the Shogun and the country, and Takasugi they want to destroy everything that they can, but Odd Jobs, they just want to protect, and they're all friends, so of course they're gonna be there. But I don't know, it's I just noticed that as I was reading through, and it's a good line.
Yeah, there are a lot of good little lines like that. that says like a lot about the characters and stuff, and it's also just, I don't know. I could see Gintama being like an influential series on a person, because there's like I don't know, there's just a lot of inspirational quotes, things that you could probably see on like I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, because another moment that I really liked was the stuff with Zenzo, and how he has the one line where he's like, guys that die for their masters or their kings are just idiots, but guys that die for their pals, those are the biggest idiots of all. And you know, it's again like reinforcing the stuff with the Shogun and Shige, you know, the fact that he wasn't just, you know, he wasn't ruling above his people, he was you know, he was a comrade, he was a friend, and so yeah, so it's not like, oh, I'm sacrificing myself for the sake of the Shogun, and you know, all the stuff with like the Shogun's duty and whatever. It's like, no, if I'm gonna sacrifice myself, I'm sacrificing myself for a friend, and it's like, yeah.
And another good moment that I'm passing through is when like Hattori's wounded Zenzo, he's gonna throw like a kunai, and then the Shige kind of helps him, like, no, like with the same advice that he was given as a kid. And lots of good little moments like that. And then you kind of get
it's the
Gintoki
power of friendship.
Friendship, yeah, the Nen Show core. But then you get Gintoki facing off Takatsuki and Kagura against Kamui. Oh, and there's another really good line, like where Takatsuki's abandoned 100, Gintoki's connected with 1,000. Takatsuki's destroyed 1,000, and Gintoki's been helped by 10,000. And I'm like, and then it ties we have protected everything with, in parentheses, Yorozu, as just 3 people. So it's like, it ties the protection thing to the name of the group, and it's like, yeah, that's fucking nice, because again, that would be a lost in translation thing until then, but it's getting to notice it then while he's facing down Takatsuki, finally, after 500 plus chapters, is it's good.
I also thought it was funny that I don't remember his name either, but like Kagura's brother's other guy, the other Yato, he lost his arm earlier in the series, and then like he gets a new artificial one, and it just gets blown up again, and he's like, does somebody have, you know, a grudge against my arm?
Also, one thing I thought of while scrolling through is because, like, the arc does kind of end with them briefly working together, like, when they kind of turn, you know, because when Takatsuki gets betrayed and then you see Takatsuki and Gintoki fighting together, I'm like, yeah, because I love the hero-villain team-up. Like, that's always kind of fun. But I'm noticing, well, because, like, you know, Gintoki, in the line I just quoted, Gintoki said that, you know, they'll protect everything, Yorozu, and but then he's also saying, like, you know, because Takatsuki, like, you know, or I haven't lost anything. All that's happened is I have one less back to protect. So, you know, because, you know, Takatsuki's kind of against him, you know, he's not protecting him anymore. And I don't know, I'm wondering if, like, if Takatsuki does get a face turn, I wouldn't be surprised. But, and I don't know, that redemption's cool. That'd be fun to see, but I don't know if that'll happen.
Can't believe Gintama just ripped off Naruto. He really is just Sasuke.
And I think the big thing that's making me think that is that, like, because we finally get the past arc, I guess, the flashback, and it hurt me, Mathwiz. It really hurt. Like, we see their sensei, and the way it juxtaposes the flashback with their fight. And you just see, like, oh, here's, you know, Takatsuki, he left his old school, and, like, Katsura is palling around with him for some reason. And then they meet Shoyu Sensei, who, you know, of course, he saved Gintoki. And, you know, it's just, and then you see them fighting each other, and then a bit more, and then it goes back to from present to past. And then we find out the demon that Gintoki's been carrying with him for the whole series. Is that he killed his sensei. See, and I say something. I'm hurt.
I mean, yeah, it's rough.
like the build up to it was really good, and like because it really frames Takasugi well, because like up until now he's just been like, I'm going to destroy this world that took his sensei from him. Gintoki, like the world made Gintoki take the so
yeah. So it definitely gives more context to really both characters, because like for Takasugi it's like why is he so fixated on Gintoki? Well, this is why. But then it also like lends a lot of weight to like the fact that Gintoki didn't also become like a Takasugi, the fact that he's still able to exist in the world and try to move forward.
It's like he wanted to protect his sensei's soul, but to do so he had to kill his own soul, kind of, and do something he didn't want to do and conform to the world. And
more about the soul.
Yes, and it hurts. And like because he even talked like the line that also got me was how he's talking about how like he understands Takasugi because like they both hate the same person, Gintoki, and I'm like, fuck. That can definitely I can see that affecting how I like view certain things on the reread a bit, and there's other lines. So actually this one was shown to be on my server. Do you remember in Red Spider where Tsukio had her teacher who she killed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I didn't notice that. Not that I was allowed much time, but I wouldn't have noticed that until a reread or rewatch or watch full watch at some point. But when, like, there's probably a bunch of other connections like that because this is that kind of thing that's so big that Sorachi 100% knew what it was, like had this in mind for Gintoki since before the series started, because it's all been building towards this, which is why I think it really hit. And so like I could see it recontextualizing some other things potentially. So it is a big part of why this is my favorite arc so far, because like I'm still kind of hurting over it, because it's just so like really well built up and handled, I think, which is why it hurt.
Oh yeah, and then the way that they like keep going with that in the next arc too, it's we'll
talk about that because I think well, yeah, I'll wait on that though. But anyway, yeah, as the Gintoki kind of takes down Takasugi, there is that really weird joke as I'm scrolling through it because I almost forgot about it, where it's like one of the chapters open and you see Takasugi impaled, and then he kind of like falls forward and like lands on the staff that he's impaled by when he gets betrayed. And like Gintoki's like in a tuxedo, a magician's tuxedo, and it's like bravo, and Takasugi's like floating, and it's just like, Sorachi, fuck you, what the fuck are you doing? This is a serious moment. And I don't know, I don't know, and like I almost find it funny because it's so baffling, and it's like it's also like a non sequitur, like it kind of happens and then it just like gets ignored, like it's almost like Sorachi or his editor went like, hey, isn't this a comedy manga, and that gets just added in. And I don't know, but yeah, they get betrayed, or Takasugi got betrayed by the I can't remember what their group is called. The Assassins. With the big hats.
I'm definitely behind because that happens when I can actually follow the series. Since I have it in front of me. But I also did like, you had mentioned how they both have kind of the same enemy. But it also ties into like the stuff with Kagura too, and you'd also said with other characters in the series about like how our enemy is ourselves. The whole thing about fight. The conflicts and stuff you encounter in life, it's all like fighting yourself, and
that's true.
And we also hear more about like the kind of person Shoyo was. Like we get some flashbacks. Oh man, we also get and they get a flashback, and then it ties into another minor character later, and it's like, oh, it all connects. But yeah, and the stuff about like how people, the weaknesses of people, and carrying that with you and that sort of thing. It's just it really ties together well with the Takasugi Gintoki fight.
Yeah, well, and see, like, I guess I hadn't thought too much about the Kagura Kamui stuff, because, like you said, oh, the enemy is yourself, where, like, yeah, Kagura's a character who's kind of, like, fighting her natural Yato heritage.
Yeah.
Or struggling with it, and then Kamui is, like, the ideal Yato. He's, like, that race personified in one being. But also he does, like, I like the part where he's, like, neither one of you, because talking to Gintoki and Takasugi, he's like, neither one of you is going to die because I'm going to kill both of you. Like, because he wants to kill them, he's protecting them so that he can kill them later.
Yeah.
And it's like, so he, he's not completely far gone, but it's in a it's in a very Kamui way, and that I like that part. But yeah, everyone stands together. The Shinsengumi come in. Yeah, that's right. Gintoki gets, like, stabbed, and it looks like, oh no, he might be dead, but he was saved by the copy of Jump that Hattori gave him, and that was good. Like, tying back, like, that was the episode that they, or the chapter that, they met each other, and, like, so that kind of ties into, like, the climax of the arc, and the opening of this one, where Hattori gave it to him, like, that, because Hattori, he killed one of his own friends, like, and to pretend that the Shogun was dead, like a willing sacrifice, and but no, he was still accepted back in, because I mean, at the end of the day, Gintoki is perhaps the biggest sinner, but so he has no right to judge people, which probably ties into the ideas of the Shinigami arc. Which we just read, and now I'm like, well, fuck, I gotta reread it, I guess. Like, so much of the series has been, like, recontextualized for me now with this arc in particular, that I'm just like, fuck, I don't know anything about Gintama, even though I just read most of it. But yeah, the fighting winds down, and
another thing I also another thing, like, I don't think there were many instances of this, but there were, like, a couple times where, generally I don't really have much to say about, like, Gintama's panel layouts or, like, the way it kind of uses the structure of the manga. But, like, in this stretch of chapters, there were, like, a couple times where he would do a 2-page spread, or, there was one page where it's a pretty basic thing, but, like, having, this was more in the Farewell Shinsengumi thing, I guess, but his name, I don't remember his name.
Oh, Sorachi, or the character?
The character, the guy with the monocle.
Sasaki.
But
Isaburo.
Yeah, but basically the thing where, like, it's like the character standing off to the side and, like, the panels behind them. I can't think of, like, many instances where Sorachi does that. Usually it's, I don't know, a lot more standard. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. But so like with this arc, I was like, well, hang on, was Sorachi just pretending to write a mediocre manga for the last 500 chapters, and now he's, like, actually showing his true strength? He's been holding back all this time.
He's been hiding his power level. He finally achieved Super Saiyan. With this arc, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I don't remember the pages that you're mentioning off the top of my head, but maybe I'll see them going through.
Yeah, no, they're further ahead. Now that I think about it, I don't know why I brought that up now. It's fine.
But anyway, yeah, the arc winds down. Takasugi is injured.
You also get the moment where what the heck's his name? Oboro? He, like, had cut Takasugi's eye in the past, and then Takasugi cuts his eye, and it's like, yes.
Yeah. That's right.
Parallels.
Yep, and then, everyone's sort of, like, recovering. Shigeshige goes, into hiding, and then he's actually assassinated, and it goes full circle. He gets to finally drink the tea, and he dies as, a big brother, not a shogun, so to speak, and rest in peace. It was good. But anyway, so yeah, moving on to the Farewell Shinsengumi arc. After all of that, Nobunobu sort of uses a Mimawari Gumi to move in, and they arrest Kondo, who, kind of willingly goes to keep the rest of the Shinsengumi from, following him, to protect them. and especially for Hijikata, you get all this stuff with the him as the because he's the guy who's like follows the rules, and he's all about order and laws and stuff. But now he's like torn between that and his camaraderie with the Shinsengumi. Like I think even later he has the line about like, you know, at first he was protecting people because that was his duty, right? Because again that's the law as a, you know, one of the Shinsengumi. But now he at some point he's started doing it because he legitimately cares, which is why he kind of makes his decision later. And see the Shogun Assassination arc, probably I did like it more than this one, but this one also got more emotion out of me, like, or at least like tear wise, for reasons we'll get to, because I've seen Sasaki again and I'm like, fuck. Like the way they kind of add context to his character is really good.
Yeah, it's for some reason I was thinking that like some of the moments I had mentioned earlier were from the last arc, but they were from this arc, not. It was like I don't know, because like how the two arcs flow into each other. So I don't know. It is very like it's a good time thing that we read them one after the other, I suppose, because like they do just kind of, you know, just go straight into each other. And I remember when before we started Gintama, it was suggested that we read each of them separately because they're big arcs, and I'm like, that would have been a short ass episode, a 40-minute episode. No, thank you. But at least it would have been a 40-minute episode of. I felt like the discussion was pretty consistent. Like there were things to say as opposed to just like, I didn't really care for this chapter.
That was a chapter. Right.
Like, wow, enjoying Gintama with no caveats. That sure is strange.
The monkey's paw has a finger curled now after that last discussion, or after this one. We have 3 more to go, and the monkey's paw only has 3 fingers. We're going to run out by the time it ends. What happens for the last one? Are we going to hate it? I don't know.
So I think, like, maybe I might prefer this arc to the Shogun one.
Oh, because they're both really good.
Because like a lot of the moments I had talked about earlier, like how it you know, digs into like the comedic premises of prior one-off chapters or whatever, but like recontextualizes them. It's at the start of this arc, which I guess couldn't have happened without the last arc, but I don't know. This is where like it does a little more, I think, with the structure and the callbacks.
It also has more Katsura, which, you know...
At one point, he was my favorite character. Man, that was a while ago.
Yeah, but I'm sure you still like him, I'm sure.
Yes.
And also, like... because I forgot, it was funny in the, like, in the flashback of the last arc, where... Because he's just kind of, like, hanging out with Takasuki for some reason, and then he's just kind of like joins the school, and they're like, "Who are you?" And I just thought that was funny, and of course my first thought was like, it's Katsura, you know, his name. That's because he loves to introduce himself as Katsura. So that was just a thought I had.
What I also thought, because here's another one that I'm noticing, like when Nobunobu is like you know, like they're attacking the cabaret girls for no reason, and, you know, showing that like, oh, I'm the Shogun, I have power, you know, you're all beneath me. And he's like with Otai, it does the thing where like Hijikata like looks angry and he's like, oh, he's gonna punch the Shogun, but he punches Gintoki, which is like, I forget which individual story that was from, because like where like Gintoki and Hijikata were just like punching each other because they couldn't they couldn't hit whoever it was. I don't remember who it was. It was one of the cabaret arcs. Like I don't know if it was the one with
what's her Shige or
what was the girl, the lady who was like the Phantom, not the
Shinigami,
Phantom.
The lady, or not the Shinigami arc, but the lady who would like bring the clubs down.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe it was from that one.
See, now that you bring it up, there's like a lot of host and hostess club arcs.
Yeah, but yeah, so like so Hijikata, but it also like works in this thing because like Hijikata can't punch the Shogun because he was Shinsengumi, and so it has to be like, you know, they for like I guess the Shinsengumi's reputation, like they can't be the ones who, I forget exactly how they phrased it, but like in a way, it's like Hijikata transferring that to Gintoki, who can do it for him, sort of. Because
Yes.
like then Gintoki punches the Shogun, and it's like, so it's as well like calling back to the joke, but also, recontextualizing it and paying it forward, I guess.
Which is literally what Gintoki does with the punch. He pays it forward to Nobunote. And then and of course the lines are good about how because we talk like we talked about earlier with how it sort of like it contrasts really well with Shige in the same situation.
And then you also get Isaburo there with his joke with the cell phone and like, is it okay if I register your email address? And it's like the picture of the Shogun's beaten up face.
Yeah, it's good. But no, you're right. This arc definitely did bring back more like little things. You also had like the one hard-boiled guy showing up again.
Yeah.
And, which was neat. But it's also kind of like the one a couple chapter or last reading, I think, where you had the old guy, the Gintoki stand-in, and the noodle shop lady, where it's like, I don't understand why these characters are connected. So I guess in this case, it's like, I'm not sure why specifically this character came back for this arc.
Mm-hmm.
It was neat to see because he was, introduced ages ago, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's that guy, but I'm not sure why. Though there were some good gags, like when they were like weaponizing the hard-boiled text boxes, and real quick, because this was related, because the two of them grabbed the text bubbles and started fighting with them. Saito and Elizabeth interacting was something I didn't know I needed, but now that I got it, I need more.
Yes.
Because, like, they both communicate with, like, text and then they were, like, Elizabeth kept beating the fucking shit out of him. Like, it happened, like, 4 times in the reading, and I was like, yeah, I like this. And I didn't think about that as, like, a possibility, but seeing it was like, yes, that was good. But yeah, Katsura comes in and blows things up because, of course, he does.
Yes. There's also just like a little individual joke that I appreciate, where like Yamazaki like hides behind Elizabeth and is like, say something, and it's the placard that just says something.
And fucking dad, I guess Elizabeth is a dad.
It's just one of those like very, very, it's one of those like dad jokes. It's very basic, very you see it coming a mile away, and it's like, don't do it, and they do it.
It gets done. It's like, but that's why it's good, because it hurts you. And I also love at the bottom of that page where Elizabeth is like, today we're not the Shinsengumi or the Joy Patriots, but the way Elizabeth is like has their head turned and has got blood on it is like really creepy, and it's fucking perfect because he was just beating up Saito, and it's it's funny. But after that, we see Katsura. He got thrown in jail for blowing up the host club, and but then he comes, like at the start he was talking about like how he was paying respects to Shige, where it's like even as an enemy, he's gonna he did respect like because they had that whole chapter where Shige gets amnesia and joins the Joey Patriots, but then they became friends, and so now
so that gets called back to as well.
And then here you have like, so this is what I thought I was thinking about, because in the second Gintama movie, after everything Gintoki dies, like Katsura and Kondo become best friends. And what I thought was what and I think you tweeted about it. I think maybe something about boyfriends or something like that. But what I realized is like, because there's that line that gets said a lot where it's like, oh, maybe if it was like this, we could have been friends or something like that. And I realized that after that tweet for some reason, where Kondo and Katsura are characters, that is them. They are characters who would be really good friends, but they're just on opposite sides. Katsura's the Joy Patriot, and Kondo's the Shinsengumi has to capture the Patriots.
Yeah.
But here, now the Shinsengumi is against the state, just like the Joy Patriots are. And so Katsura, like, who's like, especially like as early as when in the one arc where Shinpachi was like getting online advice, and you have Fruit Punch Samurai and Fruit Cocktail Samurai or something like that, and they like, we'll meet. I'll be the one holding
Fruit Salad Samurai.
or fruit that was something like that, and they're like, oh, I'll meet, and I'll be holding a fruit salad, and then they meet, and it's like, it's oh shit, you're one criminal, and like through that mask they were able to like connect, and like there's been more stuff like that, and of course in the movie even went further with it, but here's like the payoff to that, and they're able to be friends finally because they're not no longer divided by what is their duty, and it's it's good.
This arc also has kind of like a neat thing, but about like following off of the Shogun thing. I forget which character says it, but I know like Katsura says at one point like we'll meet at dawn. But some character at some point early on mentions like how like the dark before the dawn, and how like it's
Yes, that was at the end of the Shogun Assassination where Gintoki's talking about it. Yes.
Yeah, and then it ties back in here when Katsura's like, we'll meet at dawn, and then of course it, at the end of the arc, it gets the dawn, it gets to the, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's probably more that it can represent that I'm just not connecting the dots on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because if we are still in the dark, so to speak, because like obviously things are not ideal at the end of the arc, because there's still some big things that need to be addressed, like a Mr. Utsuro, like obviously the series isn't over, but
it's a meta joke to how Sorachi has left his audience in the dark for the 500 chapters up to this point, and now is finally revealing his hand. Oh yeah, and
anyway, you get Gintoki sort of helping out Hijikata, and it really leans into like how they've sort of paired up the like I meant, cause I think I brought up a little bit earlier, but you have Gintoki with Hijikata, you have Kagura with Okita, and I think Shinpachi with Kondo, and Gintoki's giving Hijikata the advice where it's like, because he's in the same spot Gintoki was years ago. But as Gintoki gives him advice, it's like, well, not really, because, you can still protect both, of what you want, or everything you want. And, sort of helps him out. And, another good moment that I forgot about from the last arc was when the Shinsengumi gave the Odd Jobs their first and last request from the Shinsengumi.
Yeah.
That was a nice, because they've always been interacting, but no, they haven't requested anything with the Odd Jobs until that arc, and I just remembered that, and that's a neat little moment. So I only just now remembered it though. But yeah, the Shinsengumi and the Patriots team up to go rescue Katsura and Kondo, and then you get a big a prison break arc, which is following up all the other prison break arcs that we've had. And now I'm on the pages where Katsura dies from the pill that's supposed to put you in suspended animation, and which gets like a payoff later because Sorachi's a crazy person.
Yeah. Also, where was the mangaka prisoner? If this is the prison break callbacks, Sorachi, you hack. Even though I don't like that character. But then, of course, like when Kagura dies. He has like the final message, and it's like, it's not Zura, it's Katsura.
But anyway, the rescue gang goes to the island as the escapees have broken free. Another good line when Hijikata is fighting in this, like I mentioned about his duty earlier, but he says that he wants to protect Edo, and he's finally become Shinsengumi, and that was good. Also, Sorachi keeps drawing Elizabeth with teeth, and I hate it. I hate it. Please stop. It's not. No, it's kind of got the same energy as those animals photoshopped to look like they have human teeth, or stuff like that. And it's like, no, don't do that.
I guess it's like, how else do you make Elizabeth look intimidating in like a crowd shot?
Oh no, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the intended effect. But that doesn't. No. But anyway, as the sort of climax keeps going, we get like a bunch of action. We also start getting more context into Nobume and Isaburo Sasaki, where like sort of talk about the formation of Shinsengumi and how there were, stray dogs sort of forced into leashes so that they could fight other stray dogs. Like, they were just sort of being manipulated. But but then, of course, as we find out by the end, Sasaki has been manipulating everything to try and, bring it all down, including himself. So he was kind of, like, using even the Mimoragumi, which he kind of had before. Remember, there in the arc that he got introduced, he's, like, using a sort of, like, elitism. The Mimoraguma is superior to the Shinsengumi, but then he did recognize the Shinsengumi by the end. But as of this arc, we find out that he's kind of, like, always been reducing everything to the same, or that was his plan, to kind of manipulate everything to fight each other, to destroy it all, basically.
Yeah, that was a reveal. That was a lot to process.
Yeah, especially because, like, he's been introduced, like, he's important, but he was also introduced pretty late into the story, relatively speaking. So, because, like, we're tying things together from, like, the first, tying things to chapters from, like, earlier on in, like, the first couple readings, and then you have him who was, like, close to, like, halfway through the series.
Yeah.
So, I've got one part where it's, like, they're like, trying to scale a big cliff, and they're able to get through because of Elizabeth with a drill and Yamazaki's plan, and I'm like, did you just, like, give a payoff to Yamazaki's, like, surveillance and stuff, and the Anpan chapters, and him as a spy, because there's even they have more spies more skilled than our crows, and I'm like, and then Yamazaki pops up, and I'm just like, motherfucker. That was good.
I also like the part where Elizabeth and the other character are fighting with each other, and they're, like, communicating, and then they just throw away the placard and the notebook, and it's like, we no longer need words. And it's like, yeah.
That was good. Like, because, I didn't really see them as, like, parallels to each other between the Patriots and the Shinsengumi until this arc. But that was also Saito's probably, like, the most recent. He was just introduced in the last reading, but he's also fairly minor, where Sasaki has, like, major role.
Yeah.
Also, seeing the flashback was weird because, like, you get this I'm Mountain Zaki, and with the guy with the mohawk, and then it's fucking Yamazaki. What? Like, what happened? He used to be, like, this wannabe hard ass, and now he's, like, kind of a dork. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, he went from being one of the characters Gintama makes fun of for, like, being super animated to being one of the characters Gintama makes fun of for being too straight-laced. And it's like, so he had a complete 180.
The trick is that Gintama makes fun of everybody. Except Takasugi, I guess. He's, like, immune.
Well, but I guess I mean more in the sense that, like, he's, like, a nobody, but on, like, different ends of the spectrum. Like, I can't think of what the specific word is I'm looking for, but...
I can't either. But no, I didn't think about it like that, because that's... because at first I was just like, what the fuck, that's Yamazaki? But, and of course I also... Even just the scene where they're like, Honda's just practice swinging, and but he's being protected by Hichikata no Kita, and so Yamazaki can't do shit. See, at this point I think I'm just waiting to get to this real Sasaki Isaburo stuff, because that's where I teared up a little bit. Because, we get some flashbacks with him and Nobu. And the parts where, like he's trying to email his wife and kid, and but the email couldn't be sent, and then he arrives to find them dead, and it's like, Sorachi, you fucker, how are you can't keep doing this and taking these, like, little character quirks and making them meaningful. Because the part that got me is when he's like, he's agonizing over his child's name, because he wants it to carry so many different meanings, and then, like, as he's dying, he's thinking about, like, all, like, how, Nobume, she has friends, she has, a future, like, she has all the things that he wanted to put into single name, and he's just like, oh, so my message has finally been received, and I'm just like, why would you do that? Because he kind of kept her along to kill him when the time was right, but she they ended up having like becoming like a father-daughter kind of a relationship to make up for what they'd lost or didn't have, rather. Like they talked about how the Shinsengumi was meant to bodyguard the Shogun, and the plan was to assassinate, get rid of the Shinsengumi and the Shogun all at once. But then Sasaki manipulated the situation so that the child assassins wouldn't have to kill, like they wouldn't become monsters, basically. And he just kind of kept taking it on. So I guess if you think about it, he might be. I'd have to think more about this potential parallel, kind of like early Gintoki, where Gintoki kind of like to protect everyone, he kind of did everything himself. And so here's Sasaki, like, because nobody even said, like, why are you pointing your swords at Sasaki, or like how he's someone who needs to, no one's, like, he's trying to save everyone, but no one's trying to save him. Where, like, so, like, he's this, and especially now that I'm considering, like, him as a kind of father figure to Nobu, where, like, Gintoki's also kind of a father figure to Shinpachi and Kagura, right? Like, Nobume wasn't able to be to Sasaki what they were to Gintoki. And so, like, they were able to save Gintoki, like, especially in the Four Devas arc, where Gintoki's about to go off alone to, deal with everything, and they're, like, let us protect you, where Sasaki didn't have that. He wasn't able to be protected. And so... Gintama good? Question mark?
Yeah, I'm definitely impressed with how things ended up playing out with this character.
Oh yeah, and another I didn't even think about this because I just stumbled upon a page where Kagura kind of like compares herself to Nobu and says that, like, well, Earth is a star of freedom. It's okay to live how you want. Like, she, again, comparing, like, because she's also this kind of monster being a Yato.
Yeah, that was good too.
And so she's able to connect. The daughter figures are able to kind of connect, and it's like, stop being good, Sorachi. We're supposed to hate Gintama.
Yeah, but
it's supposed to be at least even worse than Kinnikuman.
Well, and it also does the thing where, like, your ultimate enemy is yourself. Because
yes.
like the whole thing he was trying to do was, like, he wanted to die. Like, he wanted to take out the system that led him to do the things that he had to do, and that led Nobume to do the things she had to do, and the circumstances that, like, got his family killed. And so he was like, he blamed himself, and, like, also I don't know, so, like, it wasn't just like he wanted to overthrow the system and like usher in a new world. Like, he wanted to just destroy everything. Wow, I didn't even think about it from that perspective.
Yeah, because that can be compared to Takasugi and Gintoki, where it's like, because he didn't, like, if he's blaming himself for the the death of his wife, then that's not so different from Gintoki killing Shoyo Sensei. Even though he didn't literally drop the sword himself, but Gintoki was forced to do it, and Sasaki also, like, by the nature of the world, had to do it. But he did become more of a Takasugi in that sense, which maybe parallels back to Takasugi, where, like, no one's because Gintoki is not protecting Takasugi, nobody is. So, but he's still alive, so maybe Takasugi can be saved, where Sasaki wasn't. Oh, I just realized that. Fuck. This is fucking. God damn it! I can't be giving a Gintama a higher score than 7. It's been a 7 out of 10 since I started it. It can't go up. There was too much, like, in there for me to raise the score. I don't know. I mean, like, oh god. See, that's a scary thing. People have been hyping up these arcs, and, like, they're kind of fucking delivering. And I'm like, I'm afraid. There's 2 more arcs to go. One of them's 100 chapters long. Like, how can Sorachi even, like, these chapters are like twice as long, 2 to 3 times as long as any arc before. At a whopping 25 chapters each, and I'm like shorter than Country of Waves or about the same length. And I'm not, like, because again, Gintama is so different. So he just, like, finally does, like, a quote unquote, like, a mid-length arc, and they're both really good. And I'm like, fuck off. Anyway,
well, and then you also get the stuff with Shoyo, because, like, we saw the that, like, flashback with him, and how like, him explaining, like, his ideals, and it was from the perspective of who was there. It was, I think, was it Oboro? Was he the one who was, like, watching over him in the cell? I don't know, but then you see, like, the girl there, and he's, like, imparting his wisdom to someone, and I guess you can recognize that it is her in that first in the Shogun assassination arc. But here then we see that same scene from her perspective, and like how his his words like influenced her, and I think she even says like, if I hadn't met that man, I wouldn't be feeling or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, see, and this is something I think I was maybe spoiled on it before, because discussion on my server happens, and I might have like clicked some spoilers that I shouldn't have, but it didn't click, because Shoyo hasn't really been super like we haven't even really seen him before. Did we see him in like his face before this reading?
Yeah, we definitely did, because he's in the Benizakura movie, so he definitely.
Okay, gotcha.
Showed up
I remember we saw him, but I don't remember if we saw like a full view of his face, because it was cut off for a lot of those parts. So
maybe not then, but I feel like we at some point did.
Yeah, no, if not, right, but because I definitely consider the possibility that Utsuro was somehow Shoyo, but it's also so like. It's also one of those things that I don't want to believe, right? Where it's like it just hurts too much, and I was maybe kind of like so when it happened, I was still like, fuck, because and even the way like your sword cannot reach me, right? Because Gintoki's still holding these demons, so of course he can't defeat like the one whose soul, he can't over. I don't. What's going on? Why is he alive? What's it called? Hajime? The beam sword arc, Big Brother. I think that was his name. Like he was a cyborg guy, so in this series with super science, alien super science, it's possible. But what the fuck? We don't know anything. So yeah, I'm sorry. I was just I had to react a little bit to that because that happened, and that was towards the end of the reading, so we don't get much more, but there's still like 150 chapters to go, so. But yeah, now we're getting to the Sasaki flashback stuff that I already kind of talked about.
Well, and there was, I don't remember if you said it, I might have just completely blanked out if you said it, but there was the line where it was like, I forget who it was who said it, but it's like, Gintoki, you're always destined to be killing that man or something like that, and it was like
yeah, or yeah,
but then there is also the line where it's like, the one that killed Shoyo was not you, it was that man, and it's like, who's that man?
What's going because I mean, if because Gintoki was pushed to do it by someone, and
never mind, I'm misreading the page. It's the one who Gintoki is facing off with here is the one who killed Shoyo, but it's like,
yeah, okay, that's what, right,
I don't know. That could mean that like Shoyo killed his own like soul. So it might be him.
Right, where Gintoki was trying to carry it on, even if it was like possibly in a flawed way, which is why Takasugi hates him or something. But there's still conflict to resolve.
So yeah, it's kind of little uncertain of what to even think about this stuff, because it's like, so in this arc in the last arc, we just get the reveal that, he was the one who killed his master. But then it's like, no, he didn't actually, question mark.
Yeah, it's like, it's a really cryptic line. And obviously, like, there's more context to get, especially considering, like, Utsuro is obviously not done with. So it's something we can't really, we can only theorize, but it's like, yeah, let's sit down and do something neither of us normally do, period, on a series that's already over, right? Like, not that I haven't made some predictions.
Does that line also mean that, like, when, like, Gintoki did kill him, but, like, his soul was already dead? I don't know. Maybe I'm taking it too, like, metaphorically. Maybe it's literal.
Yeah, we'll just kind of have to wait and see where it lines up to what we know. And, yeah. But anyway,
And this arc also does kind of something similar with Nobume, where there's the reveal that, like, she killed his family. But then at the end, it's like, no, you didn't actually kill my family. And I know that you didn't. Right. And it's like, okay. Like, I'm sure it makes sense. It's just like reading it for the first time. It's like, what?
Right, because it does kind of, and this isn't, I guess, the first time in this reading where, because we did earlier, you had Hattori who looked like he killed Shige, but then didn't. But then in this case, it's like that was part of the plan, and this one is like it's a flashback. So
yeah.
But But anyway, then you have towards the end, like they deal with Utsuro for the time being, and then go off to chase to find the original goal of rescuing Kondo and Katsura. And Kondo uses the death pill to pretend to be dead for a bit, and Sasaki gets wounded. But then Kondo gets back up at the opportune time, and
yeah, and then Sasaki switches from being like, because the whole thing up to the point was that like he was neither a father nor a samurai, but then like in the end it's like, no, you have the eyes of a samurai, you even have the eyes of the eyes like those of a father, and so then it's like he goes from like wanting to destroy everything to like he was wanting to save everything. Save everybody, rather.
Like, he is kind of like a combination of Takasuki and Gintoki, where it's like he wants both, because he thinks that one will, do, like, say, destroying everything will save everything, but it's obviously a flawed, thing, but that's how, again, nobody saved him, so I don't know what to think.
Yeah.
And there's also the part where, like, Gintoki tells the Shinsengumi to fight, and he kind of, like, he reminds him of Kondo, which,
yeah.
Because I guess he's carrying, Kondo's even talking about, like, protecting and stuff, and that's Gintoki's deal. So, he's able to, like, lead the Shinsengumi, and remind them of, who they're trying to save. But yeah, then after the sort of, the other part that got me, aside from the, I think it maybe set me up to get tears in my eyes with the, my message reached you, was when, his brother, the guy with the weird anime eyes, who had that whole...
Yeah.
And he's, like, after being, like, he even said, like, yeah, the some members of the Shinsengumi kind of become older brothers to me, but when I think about brother, Isaburo is the first one to come to mind, and as they're, like, pulling Sasaki away to rescue him, like, he comes to support him, like, he's got his little brother, and, oh my god, the parallels go even further. Because it's like a Shinpachi. Like, so you got the Gintoki, the Kagura, Nobume is the Gintoki,
yeah.
and, fuck! Because I just, like, looked at them, I'm like, wait, there's 3 of them! There's 3 in the Odd Jobs! Motherfucker! They're just lacking, I guess, Nobume is also the Sadaharu, because she chases the donuts, and, like, you remember when he fished her out of the rubble? So, no, that was a joke, don't ignore that. But yeah, then we get the name flashback and the mail that was finally delivered as he passes away, and it's like, fuck. So yeah, that was
It's also one of those things where like they do the death fake out with him like a couple of different times, and so like as they're doing all this stuff to try to keep him alive and make sure he survives, it's like, I mean, is he actually going to live? And then no, he doesn't make it. He sacrifices himself to, keep Nobume safe. And, yeah.
Pain. And see, like, we still have a little bit more to discuss, but what I'm realizing is, like, because from just the reading, I did like, the Shogun Assassination more, but discussing it, I clicked together more things with Shogun, with the Pharaoh and Shinsengumi that I hadn't before, and it made me appreciate it more. So now I'm not so sure. But I am afraid for the next arcs, because if they're even better, then, like, fuck. But yeah, anyway, in the aftermath, they kind of talk about the, the brother has the mention or lines about the Shinsengumi as his brother and Isaburo that I mentioned before. You also kind of call back to, I think there was a part where it's like, I just remember Kondo had this line about how like the flag of the Shinsengumi is a bunch of different colors like stitched together, right? Like it's not dyed one way or another. And then sort of called back to it where it's like, no, it's not white or black. It's mixed, right? Because again, they're all together. They're unified. They're not just one or the other. The Mimoarigumi or the Shinsengumi.
Mm-hmm.
Which, because yeah, you mentioned it where like Isaburo has the eyes of the samurai, which Kondo had, and of course, which is Isaburo had been looking down at Shinsengumi, especially in the first arc that he showed up in. But now they're just all together, and it's good.
Yeah, and it was like another one of those things where he kept calling himself elite, but. In like the flashbacks and stuff, it was actually like the Shinsengumi, like he was trying to play catch up.
Right.
Like they were the ones who embodied the spirit of the samurai more than anyone. So I don't know. There's interesting things.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so yeah, the police are like basically there's no military might in the Edo anymore. Like everything's just like, I guess Sasaki succeeded because most everything's fucked. But at the end of the day, like the Shinsengumi and the Patriots are all unified, so they're still there, but they're just not in the name of the country. So who knows what's gonna happen? Because I don't know what's gonna happen. There's possibilities for sure, but we still we'll see. But it does end off with because like earlier there was a line about how like after Kondo got arrested, Otai was saying like, the space behind the pole and or the garbage can, like there's no one there and it feels lonely. And then the arc ends with her, she goes over to the garbage and she puts her umbrella over it, and she like she wants him back, or she wants him with her, like she's finally kind of accepted him, and so he doesn't have to be a creepy stalker anymore.
Yeah, I'm glad it doesn't seem to be doing like and they finally fell in love, because I'd be uncomfortable with that. But it's at least the thing where like we don't hate you. I mean, I don't feel like there was for a majority of the series at least. It was like there was like like obviously they kept putting up with his stuff. Like this was mentioned in comments too earlier that like he might have been like the stalker guy, but it was nobody was actually like bothered by it, because like nobody saw him as as like an actual threat or whatever.
Right. Like, and because at the like, especially, one of his motivators for, his actions in the arc was that like she was hurt by the, the current rule that he was like, he'd offered himself up to Nobunobu, and Nobunobu hurt Otai. Like that's so of course that was one of the things that kind of pushed. So like he does legitimately care about her, even if he's also like he's really dumb and creepy. But it's still like one of those things that just with like the nature of like the jokes, it's one of those things where like if things went a certain way, I'd be like, I don't like that. Even if like I would understand like the ideas behind it, I'd be like, nope, no, not for me. Nope, no, thank you. Not my ship. I'd rather ship Kondo with Okita. I mean, what? No, okay, that just came out of nowhere. I mean, Gintama's. I don't know why I said that.
Why?
Fujo's. I don't know. They were probably
clearly the ship is between Kondo and Katsura.
I should have said that. Okita just came to mind first. Is like, okay, who's male? He's popular. I just why did I say that? I was trying to make a reference to, like, because I'm sure Gintama has some level of, like, Fujoshi audience, right?
Mm-hmm. Because, like, Okita is one of those characters where, like, he was one of the most popular, and it's probably because, like, female readers, he definitely has the kind of
if he had the most, like, votes from female readers, I wouldn't be surprised at all, right? Like, it's that kind of thing. But, so I just blurted it out. But no, Kondo and Katsura makes much more sense. I mean, it's shipping, so it never made that much sense in the first place, but but yeah, I also like, again, like, they pair off and they go off into their little
Speaking of shipping, Gintoki and Hijikata, they eat each other's meals, and then they're like, nah, this is terrible.
Yeah, they split off into their, trio of duos, and I that was cute when they're eating each other's food, and like, nope, that was disgusting, but then they got to understand each other a little more. But then like they ate the whole thing. Like Gintoki ate all that fucking mayonnaise. That poor man. That's disgusting. But he did it, and of course Kagura and Okita are fighting, and don't lose to anyone else, because they're the he's the genius swordsman kid and she's the Yato, so they're fighting. And then of course Shinpachi is potential future brother-in-law to Kondo. I heard the pain in that voice, Mathwiz. You can't escape. But and then of course the Shinsengumi heads off. Farewell Shinsengumi, one could say.
Roll credits, everybody. Gintama's over. We did it. We're finally done. Tune in next time for Boruto Part 2.
So yeah, as you probably gathered, we like those arcs. And like, you can't even say like, even though like, there were a lot of parts earlier on we were not into, like a lot of it built up into this. And if it continues, like how many major characters didn't show up? Tsukiyo, Kyubei, Hedoro. I expect the Silver Soul arc to be primarily about Hedoro after all. Right. Hasegawa he's not even a fighter, but like I don't know, he was there in the Four Devas arc as a joke. So like I don't know.
We still didn't get anything from from a guy, outer space guy.
Oh, Sakamoto.
Yeah.
And he's involved in the
openings guy.
right. So it's like with so much time left, like, you know, it would be neat to see these characters get the payoff and resolution like we saw here with some of the like the Mimo Aragumi and I can't remember his name, Sasuke's little brother, and like the follow up to Shinsengumi and all these relationships and dynamics that have been built up over this long. So see, and that's my thing is like, even though like we didn't enjoy, like you kind of alluded to it before, where it's like, oh, Gintama gets good at chapter 501 or something like that, which is like, I mean, there was stuff I enjoyed before that, and there was a notable amount of stuff I didn't particularly enjoy, but like, it's like, I guess for, it's like if, most of Gintama is like a 6 or 7, and then maybe these arcs are more like an 8 or a 9. But for some people who already enjoy the comedy, then like the rest of it's like, it's already a 10. So obviously the last arc's going to be a 10 out of 10. And really like, and especially if that is like a big draw, then like, yeah. And you're even saying like, yeah, you kind of get why people really like this series. And, it's a good I don't know, I'm satisfied right now having had that discussion and learning and noticing even more things to appreciate. So yeah, why don't I like leave up the list of chapters that we have to read? I have a big list of everything we're gonna read, and I just didn't have it up, and I had to go find it. So anyway, next time, chapters 552 to 595, so it's a little shorter reading, probably gonna be a shorter episode. But after that, we're into the last arc. Who knows
if it'll be a shorter episode, though?
That's true, because
like,
if it's like...
it gets even more galaxy brained?
That's true. But anyway, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Oh no, we're running out of openings and endings. The movie needs to come out so we can have an opening and ending for the last episode before we finish it. And I don't think that's going to happen. Oh no. Anyway, goodbye.